The 5 levels of discipline. No one warns you about. Imagine for a moment that discipline is not a single door, but a staircase. A staircase with 5 landings. Most people climb the first step, feel the burn in their legs, and convince themselves they have arrived at the top. They have not. They have barely left the ground floor. And here is the tragedy, the real quiet tragedy that plays out in millions of lives every single day. Most people never even know the other 4 levels exist. They think discipline is a switch. On or off. Have it or don't. But discipline is not a switch. Discipline is a staircase. And today, I am going to walk you up every single step. Because somewhere between where you are right now and where you say you want to be, there is a version of you who already climbed this staircase. And that version is waiting for you at the top. The only question is whether you are willing to feel foolish on the first few steps long enough to reach the last one. Let's begin. Number 1, forced discipline, the first level, is the one almost everyone starts at, and the one almost everyone gets stuck at. This is forced discipline that exists only because something or someone outside of you is applying pressure. A boss who checks in on you. A deadline that looms over your head like a storm cloud. A spouse who reminds you again that the gym membership is not paying for itself. At this level, the moment the pressure disappears, so does the behavior. You are not disciplined. You are managed. I once knew a young man who worked in construction, and every single morning he woke up at 5 without an alarm, without a single complaint, because his foreman was waiting at the site, clipboard in hand. Rain or shine, he was there. But on his day off, no foreman, no clipboard, no eyes watching that same man could not bring himself to go for a single walk. Not one. The discipline he displayed Monday through Friday evaporated completely the moment no one was measuring him. Is that a flaw in his character? No, it is simply the nature of level 1. At this level, discipline is borrowed. It belongs to someone else, and you are only renting it. Ask yourself this. How much of what you call discipline only exists because someone is watching? Sit with that question. Because most people spend their entire lives believing they are disciplined people, when in truth, they have only ever been supervised people. And supervision ends. Bosses retire. Trainers get hired by someone else. Spouses grow tired of reminding you. And when the supervision ends, so does the behavior unless you climb to the next step. Number 2, motivated discipline, the second level, is more dangerous than the first because it feels so much more real. This is motivated discipline fueled not by outside pressure, but by an internal spark, a burst of inspiration, a new year, a breakup, a health scare. Something lights a fire inside you, and for a few glorious weeks, you are unstoppable. You wake up early. You read the books. You write the plan on the whiteboard in bold, confident letters. And it feels for a moment like you have finally become the person you always knew you could be. But motivation, my friend, is a weather pattern. It is not a climate. It comes in with the wind, and it leaves the same way. I once knew a woman who decided on the 1st of January that this was the year she would finally write her book. She bought the notebook. She bought the pen, a good one, a fountain pen, because she said good tools produce good work. She wrote 4,000 words in 3 days. Beautiful, passionate, electric words. And then on day 4, the spark dimmed. Life intruded. And that notebook sat on her nightstand, 4,000 words deep and never finished, for the next 6 years. This is the trap of level 2. It convinces you that feeling motivated is the same as being disciplined. It is not. Motivation is the ignition. Discipline is the engine. And an engine that only runs when the ignition sparks is not an engine you can rely on to get you anywhere far. Here is a question worth sitting with. What happens to your goals on the days you don't feel like it? If the honest answer is they stop, then you have not yet left level 2. And that is all right, because almost everyone starts here, in the warm glow of inspiration, mistaking the flame for the fire. Number 3, identity discipline, the third level, is where transformation quietly begins, though it rarely announces itself. This is identity discipline that no longer depends on supervision or inspiration, but on self-concept. At this level, you no longer do the behavior because someone is watching, or because you feel a surge of motivation. You do it because, in your own mind, that is simply who you are. A person at level 3 doesn't think, I should go for a run today. They think, I am a runner. And runners run. The discipline stops being an action you perform and starts being a fact you live inside of. I once knew an older man, a widower, who had smoked for almost 40 years. Every doctor, every family member, every warning label had failed to move him. But one day, after a health scare that nearly took his life, he made a decision that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with identity. He stopped calling himself a smoker who was trying to quit and started calling himself a man who does not smoke. That single linguistic shift, that quiet redefinition of self outlasted every patch, every gum, every pamphlet the hospital had given him. He never smoked again. Not because he was forcing himself, because the man he now believed himself to be simply did not do that. This is the power of level 3. Behavior that flows from identity requires almost no willpower, because you are not fighting yourself. You are simply being yourself. Ask yourself, what would you do differently today if you already believed without a shred of doubt that you were the kind of person who follows through? Most people are trying to force behavior on top of an identity that contradicts it. That is like trying to grow a garden in soil laced with poison. Change the soil first. The garden follows. Number 4, value-aligned discipline, the fourth level, goes even deeper than identity. This is value-aligned discipline, a state where your daily actions are no longer separate from what you believe matters most in life. At this level, discipline is not something you have. It is the natural output of who you value. A person operating at level 4 doesn't need to remind themselves to be honest, because honesty is not a rule they follow, it is a value they are. They don't need to force themselves to show up for their family, because family is not an obligation. On a calendar, it is a core value expressing itself through action. I once knew a woman, a nurse, who worked double shifts for years in a hospital that chronically understaffed her department. No one forced her to stay those extra hours. No motivational poster fueled it. She stayed because her deepest value, the belief that no patient should suffer alone in the night, was louder than her exhaustion. Her discipline was not effort. It was alignment. She was simply living out in daily action what she already believed to be true in her bones. This is the level where discipline stops feeling like sacrifice. Because you are no longer being asked to give something up for a goal outside yourself. You are simply behaving in a way that matches what you already truly value. Here is the reflective question for this level. Is your daily behavior a mirror of your stated values or a contradiction of them? Most people say they value health and then eat in a way that contradicts it. Most people say they value growth and then spend their evenings in a way that contradicts it. The gap between stated values and daily action is where discipline quietly dies. Close that gap, and discipline stops being a battle. Number 5, legacy discipline, and now we arrive at the 5th level, the rarest, the deepest, the level so few people ever reach that most don't even know to aim for it. This is legacy discipline. At this level, your actions are no longer even about you. They are about the people who come after you. A person at level 5 wakes up early, not because they feel like it, not because it fits their identity, not even purely because it aligns with their values, but because they understand that their discipline today is quietly shaping the ceiling of possibility for their children, their students, their community, long after they are gone. I once knew an old teacher, retired now, well into her 80s, who still every single week tutored children in her small town for free. Her body was tired. Her hands shook. She had nothing left to prove and no supervisor left to please. But she understood something most of us take a lifetime to grasp, that her discipline was a torch, not a candle. A candle burns for itself. A torch is meant to be passed. Level 5 discipline asks a haunting question. One I want you to sit with long after this video ends. If a child, 20 years from now, inherited only your habits, not your money, not your possessions, only the way you actually spent your days, would that inheritance make their life better or worse? That question should stop you cold, because that is the real test of discipline. Not whether it changes your life, but whether it is worth handing down. So let's stand back now and look at the full staircase. Level 1, discipline borrowed from supervision. Level 2, discipline borrowed from a fleeting feeling. Level 3, discipline built into your identity. Level 4, discipline aligned with your deepest values. Level 5, discipline offered forward as legacy to those who come after you. Most people live their entire lives bouncing between levels 1 and 2, waiting for a boss, a deadline, or a burst of inspiration to move them. And they wonder, decade after decade, why nothing ever seems to stick. But you now know something they don't. You know the staircase has 5 steps, not 1. And you know that the climb is not about intensity. It is not about trying harder on the same step. It is about ascending, moving from behavior that depends on the world to behavior that depends on who you are, to behavior that depends on what you believe, to behavior that outlives you entirely. So here is the only question that matters now. Not, am I disciplined? But which step am I actually standing on? And am I finally ready to climb?